And you know, we're talking about the depth of it. Like there's people there I've never heard of, but there's people there obviously we do know. But they have got a massive. Actually, I'll tell you a lie. Active workers 154.
Oh my God! So that's huge.
Yeah. Chavo Guerrero's there as a manager. Vicky Guerrero's there as a manager. I mean, there's a lot of guys there, like Christopher Daniels. He probably doesn't do much now. Billy Gunn's over there, still doing bits and pieces. Colt Cabana, just going through some of the names. The Rhodes brothers, Dustin and obviously Cody, who's running the thing. There's plenty there. Joey Janela, who's not a bad sort of worker. Jake Hager, the former, what was his name?
I can't think. He's an MMA guy.
Yeah.
He was that Vince. What was his name?
I've gone blank too.
Yes, so have I.
And he came out with
We the People. The People. He was out there with Dutch Mantel.
Yeah.
He was. I don't think they called him Dutch Mantel then, but it was Dutch Mantel.
Yeah,
that was with him.
Yeah, absolutely.
We the People. I can't think.
Jeez, I've gone blank too, but anyway.
Yeah.
But there's a whole heap of them there. That Jungle Boy looks quite good. I've seen bits and pieces of him.
Can't talk, no mic skills.
Isn't he? No, okay.
No, they're brilliant. He needs a manager. He needs a face manager.
Well, they've got plenty of people there who can do that for him. And, of course, Malachi Black, the former Alice.
He's really good. He's really good. He's another guy that could definitely give Kenny Omega a run. No, he's very, very good. Look, in that roster, though, at 154 people, right, how do you get everybody over? It's impossible. It's impossible.
But they got
how do you put everybody?
Yeah, Adam Page. There's heaps of them. Like there's even Billy Gunn's kid, Austin Gunn. He's there. And you got people like Arn Anderson, of course, and Tully Blanchard.
His son's there too. Arn Anderson's son's working there.
Yeah. Tony Schiavone's son works there. I'm not sure what name he goes under though.
What I'm saying to you though, Pete, is if let's hypothetically say that was our promotion. Hypothetically, right? Let's just say hypothetically.
Yeah.
Somebody dumped all this cash in us and said it's AEW, right? My roster wouldn't be any more than 50 people, maybe 60 tops.
Yeah, quality over quantity.
Yeah, and not only that, you can't have all of those guys can't be superstars.
No.
So out of that 50 to 60, only maybe 20 will be what you consider your superstars. That's between the tag divisions and your singles divisions and that kind of thing. The rest of them would probably be mid-carders and jobbers and stuff like that.
Well, they run, is it 2 or 3 shows, Anthony, they run?
Weekly?
4?
Uh-huh.
Okay, so if they're running 4 shows and you got tag, you got women, and obviously the men, so you're sort of saying over 4 shows you've got, if you were to split them, not that I don't think they're evenly split over obviously 4 shows, but if you're dividing, say, 160 odd between 4 shows, it's 40 people.
That's still 40 people a show.
Yeah, that's still way too many. But
and at the end of the day, if you've got, let's say you've got Malachi Black, right?
Yeah.
Sake, right? You want him on 2 at least of your shows.
Is there now a counter argument? And I'm thinking out loud as I speak. But is there a counter argument that sometimes, in this situation, less is more?
Yes,
don't overexpose like WWE used to, and you have these guys that are so bloody good, but they're not overexposed, so they're still a bit of a novelty.
All right, so let's go back to 1987 WWF.
Yes.
Right. Very rarely you saw Roddy Piper wrestle on TV. Very rarely you saw Hulk Hogan wrestle on TV.
True.
Most of the time in superstar shows, it was mid-card guys that were main eventing.
Yeah.
Because you had to go and get a pay-per-view or go and buy a big ticket to go and see them work.
Yes.
You can still run with that concept, but you still have to get their heads on TV.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Whether it's by video recording or whatever else, they have to be there, right? So at the end of the day, these 4-hour shows people don't want to watch. I can't sit there and watch too long. 1 hour is enough, because at the end of the day, all your TV should really be is a promotion to the big show that's upcoming and your house show.
Over there, that's not the concept anymore.
Yeah, but I know it's not but for your storyline basis, it has to be, because now you get these short storylines that are freaking die within a month. That's why WWE is doing so bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you've got to look at it that way. So really, you're advertising, your small matches, your TV show advertises your big show, your pay-per-view show, right? So once again, how do you fit 150 wrestlers in that? You can't, because this, unfortunately, in pro wrestling, like acting, there's only so many stars, and then the rest of them are people that are in the background, fill-ins. I thought that's this reality of life. It's not, me being a prick. It's this reality of life. There's some people that are going to make it to the big time. There's some people that are going to be working indie shows in basketball courts. That's how it is. At 150 people in a roster, firstly, your wages are ridiculous.
I was just going to say, can you imagine the wage bill?
Right. Secondly, you got to try and get all these people over. Why am I paying somebody a very good amount of money and he's not making me any money? That doesn't make any sense at all.
Yeah.
But this
and they don't want to fall into the trap that Vince did of stockpiling either.
Well, that's what he's done. He's stockpiled.
Oh, he has, big time. He's got a bloody good roster there.
Yeah. So this is where you got to look at. And then if he's got guys booking and saying, well, I write my own matches and I do this and I don't do that, you're falling straight into WCW territory. That's what killed the company.
Absolutely. Hogan and Nash and all them.
That's right, yeah.
In particular. And I was very interested to hear an interview with Bryan Danielson as to why he came over. And he was saying, look, his relationship with Vince is airtight, no problem at all. They love each other. He said, if anything, Vince was probably a little bit overprotective of me. And, he really, really cared, and he just wanted to make sure I didn't get hurt again and blah, blah, blah. And they'd offered him a massive contract, and included in that contract, he could go and do the G1 and the Japanese shows as well.
Yeah.
So that's, but at the end of the day, it's the alliance that AEW has got with New Japan. I think they've won the race to actually work with New Japan, because Vince has been trying very hard to get that connection, and they would maybe do a talent swap, but it looks like AEW has snagged that off Vince.
You couldn't work with Vince. It'd be impossible.
I think it'd be very hard. Yeah.
Right, like there's Vince, and then there's the rest of the world. And that's how it is. And the way he runs his company, that's how it is. AEW, even though, like I thought, there's a lot of problems there as far as their roster and all that kind of thing, and the amount of people, and it's running a little bit like a hippie commune, and I think that's going to hurt his business at some point. But it's still run pretty much like New Japan and all those things, where it's not about TV writers writing scripts for people. It's about talent getting out there, doing the best matches they can, and getting themselves over on the mic.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where Vince would demand that you have to have writers, you have to do it. You have to do it the WWE way, and nobody else does anything the WWE way. Everyone does it as a wrestling promotion way. So it'd be very, very hard to work.
It's always been very simple, really. Gene puts it the best when we talk about it, and we sit there. He goes, look, you got good guys, you got bad guys, and keep it as simple as that. Good guys, bad guys.
That's right.
Good matchups. Let them do what they're good at, not what they're not good at. It's. I must admit, and it was the first, as I said at the very start, it was the very first AEW show I'd watched. I was really, really impressed. I liked it.
I liked it as well. I think as far as shows going around at the moment, they're the best show.
Whether I don't have time to watch like every weekly show, but I'll certainly watch all their pay-per-views.
Definitely.
I thought it was good. It just took me back to a time when I actually liked wrestling.
Exactly right. That's the way I felt about it.
I don't like it. And when I say I don't like it, I don't like what's being dished up to us. But there are alternatives, and this is a great alternative.
See, 3 or 4 years ago, Pete, there wasn't an alternative.
Well, that's exactly right. There wasn't. And that's a very dangerous part to be in, Mick, in anything, even in business. You have a look at, if you take, and I think I've said this to you, but you got over here, for example, Bunnings, and then you had Masters. When Masters was around as an alternative. Now, I managed a Masters store, so I know. Bunnings really, really, really picked up their game. They refurbished stores. They made sure they had width of stock, depth of stock. They had everything. Masters was stupid, and they went under. Their own fault. And you could tell from the minute I walked in, I knew it wouldn't last. But I thought, oh, well, I'm here. As soon as Masters went, Bunnings went straight back.
To the old ways, yeah.
Not much width of stock, certainly no depth. I went to buy some lanterns about a year ago. Those lantern things you put at the front door, the lights.
Yeah.
I had to go to 3 stores to get 3. They had 1 each.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. I had to go to the one near Fountain Gate, the one at Cranbourne, and another one, because they said, oh, well, there's one at this store, one at that store. Well, have you not got 2 or 3 at any store?
There's a lot of similarities to what you're saying to pro wrestling.
That's what I'm getting to. Vince had when he had the competition, they were bloody good.
Yeah.
And then he killed the competition, bought them out, stacked them in a drawer, and then there was, there is no competition. I'll just do what I want to do because he had a captured audience. If you want to watch wrestling, you watch it here, sort of thing.
His style, what he wants, what he considered wrestling to be. Yeah.
And now he's got competition again. It may be the best thing that happened to WWE.
It might be if he's prepared to change and admit he's wrong on what wrestling is. That's the problem with Vince.
And not only that, Mick, he's lost so much talent.
Oh, look.
Talent comes and goes, I know. Yeah. But he's lost some bloody good people.
There's people out there running around that you've got your next rock. There's somebody out there. It's finding them, right? Well,
that's it.
But also, too, it's not only that, but you've got the current WWE method of how they do things, where everything's scripted, everything's got to be like this. What I'm saying is, you're never going to get natural talent from that.
No.
If you put Rock or Austin in that situation where everything was scripted that hard back in '97, they would have floundered.
Yeah. You took the words out of my mouth. I was going to say to you, could you imagine giving Austin a script?
Yeah. And that's why they don't work. But Vince, there's 2 things that went wrong with Vince. There's that, and the other thing is Vince realized a long time ago that your wrestling promotion is like a supermarket, right? Mm. And if you got craft cheese in there, people come in your store to buy the craft cheese, not to buy Coles or Woolies. Mm. It's a place you go to get that, right? Mm. So he figured that if he made his family the stars, right, and everyone that couldn't leave was the stars, then if you leave, who cares? We're the stars.
Yeah,
but it hasn't worked. The Mr. McMahon character in that worked for a small period of time. He had Austin against him, but he sort of figured that nobody will leave now, and if they do leave, the core of the promotion's there. It's not the fact.
But there's no core now.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. He has misunderstood what he was going for.
I mean, his core on SmackDown is Roman Reigns. It's Lashley and on Raw. I wouldn't even call Drew McIntyre core, even though I like him.
Well, he's done and dusted. They've buried him too many times now. And the other guy they buried heaps too was what's his name? It's Claudio Castanova, but what's his name?
Cesaro.
Cesaro. They've buried him that many times. Seth Rollins is another one that you could say could be a guy that's gonna, for him. Owens is the other one, but there's not enough guys.
No,
you are right. And there's nobody that stands out with real charisma that will put bums on seats. Not even Reigns.
Nah.
Lesnar for a short period of time.
Yeah, but that's in fits and bursts. You can't do promotion on fits and bursts.
That's exactly right. They don't have anybody there that you would say, okay, this guy, if he rocks up to a building like Punk. He's going to sell it out.
See, there's no Austin, Rock, Undertaker. You could go through a whole... There's nobody of that sort of caliber there.
That's right.
I mean, really, I'm a big Bobby Lashley fan. I actually quite like him. And I think finally he did really good. And I don't know if it's the whole MVP thing with him, but I think that works. I really, really like that. And even the Roman Reigns story at the moment with the Usos and
Bloodline and
Brock coming in. Okay, that's good. But outside of that, like, there's nothing to really get excited. Like, I haven't watched Raw, SmackDown, or NXT that we had in this week. They're recorded on the Foxtel, but I haven't watched them yet. And if I watch them or I don't really care because I don't think I'm missing much.
That's right.
Attitude, though.
Well, that's, I think, the current attitude with WWE. I mean, there's nobody there.
Isn't that terrible that your product has gone from an absolute must-see, hanging on till it got recorded or racing home from work or school or whatever to watch what you'd recorded, to if I see it, I see it, and if I don't, well, I don't.
That's terrible because you're a hardcore fan. Like the rest of us, we're all hardcore fans.
We're in the business.
That's right.
We sort of get it. And without being rude, but you're not your typical fan.
No, it's just
and you look at it and you think, oh, really? I can watch a 3-hour Raw in about an hour and 20 minutes.
I haven't been able to sit there and watch Raw for around 5 years.
Yeah, I just fast forward all the and all this happened last week, and a 6-minute entrance.
Yeah.
And I fast forward all that. You can watch Raw and all the ad breaks and everything. You can watch it in an hour and 20 minutes easy.
Yeah. That's what we do. We just fast forward it. That's what we do.
I do. That's why I record and fast forward everything. I could watch all 3 shows tonight in about 3 hours.
Yeah, that's right. What do you reckon, Anthony? What do you reckon, mate?
Well, yeah, like the product hasn't been up to par. It's been more 3 hours for Raw is too long. I think there was even talks of that Nick Khan wanting to bring it a 4th hour.
Yeah.
That's not a good idea.
I laughed at it. I said, this guy's an idiot.
Horrible idea.
Well, this goes back to Vince's philosophy. He got somebody that was from the Hollywood filmmaking thing to run his company. Look, wrestlers understand wrestling.
Yeah.
I've never met anyone that hasn't been in the business that's understood wrestling better than a guy that took bumps landed on their head or promoted or whatever else, right? If you're part of the business, you understand the business, and generally you understand what people want. Vince has brought outside people in, right? Hollywood people. They got no idea. They even watched the wrestling show. They probably couldn't tell you who Magnum TA was, or the Kerry Von Erich, or that. They couldn't tell you. They wouldn't know these names if you nobody. They said
no history.
There's no history. They've got no understanding of it. The one thing that Nick Khan, Tony Khan is a fan.
Yes.
And he understands wrestling. If you understand wrestling, then running a wrestling show, it's never easy, but you understand the idea of it. If you're going to bring people in to run your show that have got no idea about wrestling, then you end up with WWE.
And he's got some good people there, like, your Arn Andersons, your Tully Blanchards, your Rhodes boys, and even Jericho and all. Like, people who've been through those eras, who understand it from a back room, front room. You know what I mean? Like, he's got Jim Ross.
Jim Ross was the guy that was running management of talent back in their best period ever.
Absolutely he was.
Why would you not be taking this guy's advice? And this is what I don't understand with Vince. Why has Vince moved away so far from the insiders of pro wrestling to help him run his company? Like when they were at their best, it was all insiders: Pat Patterson, Jim Ross, the Briscoes. They were all there helping putting this thing together. Gorilla Monsoon back in the early days and that kind of thing, WrestleMania and the first WrestleManias, they were all there. So why would you move to people that are in the entertainment industry, like making movies and that, which they're not wrestlers? They're not really, they've got no idea what wrestling is.
It's like that woman they brought in recently. She didn't know. Who was it she didn't know?
She was writing for them and she didn't know their name.
Yeah, like...
She's a comedy writer. She's a comedy writer.
Yeah, like, serious.
I mean, you're bringing in a comedy writer to write pro wrestling, so what do you think if your program already, if you're bringing in comedy people to write for a person? I think she said, I'm going to say it's Bobby Lashley, but I'm not going to say definite. I think he's the champion, I think was her words. Yeah. I'm not really sure. I don't watch wrestling. And she said this on a podcast.
Yeah, I know. Well, they got rid of it, but...
Yeah, but still, why would you hire somebody like that? You know, you got a New York Times writer, best-selling writer, and Mick Foley.
Yeah.
Which understand. Why would you not him having writing for you? Why would you not say to Mick Foley, "What's your ideas? Well, how much do I need to pay you?"
People that know, like, but if you look at it from a business sense, Mick, if you looked at what Vince is doing and say it wasn't wrestling, it was just like a business, you would say that they're stripping it of all of the costs to make it so basically ready for sale.
Well, I think so too.
If I had a business and I was going to sell it, I'd be looking to strip all my costs, keep it as lean as possible, but knowing what the income is going to be, but how much money I'm saving. Do you know how much more of an attractive proposition it is to someone buying a business when they say, well, geez, they're bringing in, let's say, 100 million, but it's only costing them, 40 million to run?
I understand that. And 4 years ago, he would have got away with it.
Yeah.
4 years ago, he would have got away with it. Now, it's just like, let's say we'll do that same scenario again, and I buy a business in a street that I'm going to buy, and the guy stripped it all down, and the business is costing like $20,000 a year to run. It's a panel shop. I've got hardly anything. I've got contracts with councils and stuff like that, and got plenty of work coming in, and I've stripped down all my costs, and I don't have any employees and everything else. But next door, I've got a panel shop doing more work than I am.
Yeah.
So if I was the only panel shop on the block, it works. But I'm not the only panel shop on the block now. No. 4 or 5 years ago, he was.
Yeah. So before AEW, say hypothetically Vince's company was valued at say $1 billion, it would now be less than half of that.
It would be. It would be because
the value is gone.
That's right. He was the only show in town.
Yeah, buyer's market then. Now it's not. It was a seller's market then. It's now a buyer's market.
If you wanted to sell WWE now, right, you would have to build up the roster again. Once again, 150 people is too many. You don't need that many. You need maximum of 40 to 60 people, right? Maximum, right? Because your stars should be on every show, at least their head if they're not wrestling. At least promos and stuff like that, because they're the people who are setting the table, and all the other wrestlers are sitting there eating off it. So the other wrestlers take the bumps in that for them, and these guys here are going to set the big cards, right? So they're going to be having their head on these shows and that kind of thing, and promos and etc. Right? You don't need 150 wrestlers to do what they're doing, right? But if you had 50 wrestlers to 60 wrestlers that were the hottest wrestlers in the country, and you were pulling, doing friggin' 6s and 7s on your night shows and that kind of thing, 2 or 3 million or 4 million watching the show per night, right? You would sell that easily. At the moment, they're getting 1.1s and 1.2s.
See what we did,
maybe less.
What we did over here at one point, and I'd suggested to Gene, and we actually did it years ago. But I got this big bit of paper, and I wrote men's, tag teams, women's.
Yeah.
Now, granted, we didn't have a lot of women in those days, but we just worked out, okay, who do we see out of what's available to us now for the men's? Who do we see as the tag teams? And you just listed them that way, and then you looked at it and you thought, okay, well, we got, I don't know, say hypothetically we had, 20 blokes, and we had, 7 tag teams and half a dozen women or whatever, And then you look at it and say, okay, what stories could you build in that tag division between these, 7 or 8 teams? And what do we want to do with these 20 singles or whatever? And you just, and sure, people say, oh, well, you're categorizing them, and it doesn't mean they can't move and all that. But you have a starting point. we've got our tag team division, we've got our singles, we've got our women's, whatever, and then start from there. And as you say, if you get the right people and enough quality in that, 50 to 60 is
20.
More than enough. More than enough. Because you won't use them all.
That's right. And that's what's going to happen with AEW.
Yeah.
And then if you've got guys coming in that are now making stipulations in their contract on creativity, that's the worst thing you can do.
Yeah, nah. Yeah.
That's right, going right down WCW path. Yeah. Right there.
But
that's dangerous.
What you'll find, Mick, is they'll start to weed a lot out that are not going to make it.
Yeah, I think so. I think they need to.
More and more quality in, like your Punks and your Bryan Danielsons and all that. As they're coming in, you'll start to see people going off from the bottom end.
I hope they do that, because otherwise
they're going to need to, because financially you can't afford to keep doing what you're doing.
Well, he's got a bottomless pit of money. Yeah, this is the thing. I don't.
But what do you do with them?
That's exactly it.
Get restless themselves if they're not getting work.
That's right. It's like what happened with WCW. They sit at home getting paid.
Yeah, but is that what you want to do as a performer?
No, not at all. No. But I'm saying to you, I know. It did happen with a lot of them when they just sat home and got paid. Yeah. So I mean, really, Tony Khan needs to look at his roster. Obviously, Vince needs to look at his roster. And Vince needs to take every person that is not involved in wrestling or never had any history in wrestling and get rid of them.
You don't need them.
To get rid of them, and then say to and then Vince needs to look at himself in the mirror and say, listen, I need to now listen to people, not just I know everything, and put people around him that are going to say to him, no, Vince, that's not right. Not people that say, yes, Vince, that's right.
So you still got good people there. I have a lot of respect for William Regal.
Yeah.
As you said a bit earlier, Triple H, Shawn.
There's probably guys I've not even mentioned yet.
There'll be things there. Like, there's still enough people there to resurrect everything, because they've got well and truly more than a foundation. They only need to have a couple of really solid months, and everyone's sort of back on board. It's really good again, and and all of a sudden, because they've got everything. They've got the name, they've got the reach, everything under the sun.
They need a strong face. Yeah. That's what they need. They don't have a strong face.
No, and I don't know who they've got there that you could use now. I don't know if there is anyone.
No. It's
who's your next Hogan or Rock or someone? There's not.
That's the thing. Yeah. Who's your next guy like that? So
I don't know who they could even bring in.
Yeah, we can't think of anyone off the top of your head. Not even if you say, really CM Punk. He will never go back.
Oh, no.
Right, so you've got, he's the modern day Hogan. He is. As far as popularity wise and that.
Yeah.
How long that lasts for, how much the honeymoon lasts for is the next question.
That's the other thing.
Yeah. But as far as...
That's a very good point, Mick.
Yeah, well, that's not the honeymoon. How long does the honeymoon last?
Yeah.
Is there anyone out there that I can't look? For me, I've always been a James Storm fan. I thought James Storm could get you over, especially in that common man kind of face, because he is like
on though.
James. I don't know whether he'd be that on. I reckon he'd probably be
a wee bit slow in that pay-per-view, that NWA pay-per-view, but NWA 73, which we reviewed last time, but I thought he looked a wee bit slow.
Might have, yeah.
A bit slow, I don't know.
Yeah, we might have got him on a bad. I mean, he wouldn't be that. I don't think he'd be in his 40s. I think he'd be in his 30s, I reckon. He'd be in his mid-30s. I'd say, I don't know. Unless Anthony wants to Google and see how old he is, I've got no idea.
But that's a problem, isn't it? When you're at the stage where you really can't sort of say, Hulk Hogan, Stone Cold, but there's no one there.
I'm not sure who's at TNA at the moment. I can't say.
Well, you got Nick Elvis there. I mean, maybe if they brought him over and tried to repackage him.
He's got a head. He's got one of those hard heads. You couldn't package him as a face, I don't think. Sometimes somebody's just got that look on their head where they're a heel.
Yeah.
You can't like him. Storm is a guy. The other guy that they never used right is probably Bobby Roode.
Yeah.
Roode. But he's a guy that's just sitting. I don't even know where he is at the moment.
Well, him and Dolph Ziggler are a tag team.
All right, so
they're not doing much.
Dolph Ziggler for me was always the next Shawn Michaels. I mean, he's probably past that point now, but he was always that next Shawn Michaels. Bobby Roode is a brilliant athlete, you know, and could get over as a face if he did it right.
I don't mind him at all. He looks good. He looks the part.
Tell you what, though, it's shortcomings to think of that next person, that next Cena. Yeah, it's shortcomings.
Yeah, there's nobody that typically stands out as the next big thing.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Because Reigns is not the big thing. Reigns is a good heel.
He's very good at what he does, but he's no Rock. He's no Hogan.
No. He hasn't got that charisma where he's going to draw you, 20,000 people or 73,000 people to the Astrodome.
I mean, you look for their next WrestleMania. Really not that far away. And
no. The women's division is probably stronger than the men's in some points.
In some respects now, with Becky Lynch back, Oscar will be back soon from a broken hand.
Rhea Ripley, Flair.
They've got a few, They've got a few that's doing okay, but yeah, I mean, if you got
Kevin Owens is always going to be mid card, no matter whatever they say.
Yeah.
He was a Universal Champion, but never really brought it. The same thing as what's his name? The guy that's his mate.
Sami
Zayn.
Yeah.
I can't think of anyone at the moment that's there or coming through NXT.
Priest has got some.
He's got something, Damien Priest, but I don't think he can talk.
But again, give him
manager.
Give him a Paul Heyman MVP, someone like that,
Yeah, but if you're going to put him as a face, you need to put someone.
Yeah, they could do this. Because he reminds me a bit of a Bulldog Brower, but just needs a bit of refinement. But they could do something with him. I mean, he's not.
But do you see him as a heel or a face?
No, he'd have to go with a heel.
Yeah, I'm saying what they're missing at
the faces. Yeah.
Wrestling is missing. All of wrestling, is missing that face, that guy that that the heels beat up on, and then the heels get their upcomings. When it happens.
Yeah, no one that really is front and center jumps out.
And this is a mentality of wrestling for the last 10 years. Is it's cool to be a heel. Like the NWO stuffed all this up.
Yeah.
They stuffed all this up. Let's go back 20 years, right?
Yeah.
All the young guys today it's not cool to be a face. I want to be a cool heel. There's no such thing as a cool heel.
Nah.
The reality is a heel is meant to be an arsehole prick of a person that when it comes to the crunch, they do the runner.
Yeah.
A heel should show their ass, at the end of the day and get their ass kicked. Right? Yeah. That's your job as a heel, right? If you're going to try and be a cool heel and not lose matches and you want people to love you, but you tell them to get stuffed, you're living in a fantasy world because wrestling is about good and bad people.
Yeah.
Good versus bad.
That's all it's ever been.
That's all it is. And then the variance of it is whether I want to take something from you, you want to keep it, whatever else. I always say it this way: when I look at booking, it's good versus bad, and then the 7 deadly sins. Whether it's freaking from gluttony, whether it's from greed, whether it's from wanting to take something from somebody else, whatever else. But it's always that storyline basing around somebody good, somebody evil.
Yeah.
And what would the good person do and what would the bad person do?
Yeah.
It's not very, very hard, the concept of it. But if I want to be a bad guy that everybody loves me, it doesn't really work in the situation, does it?
No.
And everybody wants to be that bad guy now, that bad, tough guy, but everyone loves me. Cena was last of the true guys that went around kissing babies.
Yeah, probably.
That's what they need is another baby kisser.